There we go. Okay, good. All right, it is 7 o'clock. Want to welcome everybody to the March 19th, 2024 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. We have a rather brief and short agenda, so we can get through this fairly efficiently. At this point, I'm going to forego the public forum aspect of the meeting because you're the only folks here, unless you have something to say, but you could choose to do so during the review of your application. We do have the Zoom participant fine. Other than that, we have the our February meeting minutes, and again, we had started a discussion on recommendations for accessory building setbacks.
I don't think can't take part in hearings, so you can't add to the public comment. Zoom,
No, I am okay interacting.
okay.
But it allows
Yeah,
people
okay.
to monitor as
Yeah,
they're
I
trying to
would
do
do
so.
Just it's a little.
Okay, that being said, the first application, if you want to just give us an overview of what you were looking to do.
Absolutely. We are looking for a zoning variance, I believe, of 14 feet. So approaching 14 feet into a sideline 40-foot line.
I think that's the Miller Ave.
I don't believe that's our,
No, it isn't.
That's it.
Yeah,
okay.
there we
That's
go.
it, yes. What you're looking at, yes, that's the back, exactly,
Okay,
right there, so just to come out there 24 feet. That gable is 24 feet wide, so the house itself is 24 feet wide. We're looking to come in 2 feet on both the front and 2 feet on the rear, making it a 20-foot wide structure, 24-foot in length. So 20 length by 20, I'm sorry, a 24 length by 24 width structure, very similar to the house with the gambrel roof, and it's just going to be extra living space to make more of a great room. There isn't any other thing other than pretty much a shell of that structure. It's going to be an open cathedral room with a foundation that will be a crawl space foundation. Quarter floor, 4-foot wall to come up to match the existing height of the floor of that house. The structure itself is going to be a couple of feet shorter than the existing structure, just to give that dimension so that it's not all one flat house or anything. It's going to come out again toward that sideline. The reason for that side, if I could approach, would
yeah,
be-
here's the pointer.
Oh, yeah, that'll work kind of. Our reason for the asking the variance, everyone, is because this really is our only viable area to build. This is the rear of the house. Again, it's a small log cabin. This is the rear of the house with an existing deck. This is the front of the house with an existing front porch, covered front porch. And this gable drops down because the foundation is exposed on this side, and there is an actual garage bay that goes into the basement of the home. This area up here is just grass and it's flat at this moment in time. Also, our septic and our leach field is right there, and our well is about right there where it meets the wood line off the house. Our closest neighbors would be the McCoys. And again, Paul and Doreen Casper up here. Talking with Mr. Casper, his well is up by his driveway, which is going to be somewhere in this area. And the McCoys, their septic is over here, and their well is up just past it. There's a barn on this side. So we're well within 100 feet
beyond hundred
of
feet.
either of those structures on either of the parties that are closest to us. I don't know their names, they're quite far away, and up here across the road, that is Pat Paste.
Yeah,
Yes, so just if you don't know where we are, that you were looking at Barton Hill Road here. And this is the sideline in question.
and
When,
that's that's the west side
yeah,
yard.
yep, exactly, yep, that's the west sideline. At first glance, you wouldn't even think that we need a variance, and we didn't until we did exactly what we've got here. When we did an overlay and we did Onyx Hunt, we realized we would be within 40. There's a fence that the Caspers put up years ago that appears to give us more property. So when we had first said, okay, we want to build a 24-foot long structure to come toward the sideline, I still had 42 feet to that fence. But that fence is not our property. So I quickly realized that out, and that's why I was here with you guys a month ago or so.
Yeah.
So that's what we're looking at. Any questions from anyone?
Yeah, what is the footprint of the existing structure?
The existing structure gets 24-foot wide, and I would have to take a guess at upwards of 40 foot in length. It's a 2-story, 1,428 square feet. Little log cabin. And we just wanted to make it a little bit of a bigger log cabin. Quite frankly, just we're running out of foot space in there with us, the 2 boys and all the animals. That's what we are. Yeah. So again, no real there's no plumbing, there's not gonna be any additional bathrooms, nothing like that. It's just gonna be a 3-sided structure with a roof and a couple doors and windows.
Okay,
Yeah.
but it's gonna be an addition and it's basically gonna blend into the existing structure.
It'll look hopefully identical to the house. It'll be log in nature. It'll be the same color. It's gonna be 3-walled and it will be attached to that gable. Yeah. So what they plan on doing is that once they've got that structure in place, they're gonna knock out that gable wall and that structure will be coming down.
I don't know if you know the answer. These are rather odd shaped lots. Is there any
They are.
particular reason for that or?
I don't know. I really don't. I know it used to all be one. But I'm not exactly sure. I know all these houses were built around the same time except for this one. But other than that, I don't know. I know that my driveway from house to road is about 500 feet.
Wow,
And then this is all still wooded, looks identical to what you see today. It's actually a nice piece. So. Yeah, got a great western view here of the sunset. It's funny because in the winter, the sun's setting over here, actually just, right by Doreen's house. And in the summer, like in the spring, it's starting to set maybe over here now. These are a big copse of trees and you can't see much here. When in terms of sunset, these pines are rather tall. But as soon as it gets past them and hits in here, beautiful sunsets that go all the way to about here. In the summer, as you can see, that's the perfect viewing spot with a bottle of wine and our front porch. So it's nice.
so you
We're
have
going with
that,
we're going with the local builder. His name is Mark. I forget. I think he's doing this town hall as a matter of fact. Are you doing an expansion on this building?
yes,
Yeah,
Yeah.
same builder.
oh, okay.
Yep.
So you built that house? or
I did not, no, oh geez, what's her name? She used to work and might still, she used to work as the, as a waitress at Gibby's. Forget her name. Cute little lady, maybe in her like late 50s, early 60s. She still lives on Barton Hill, not too far from the front of the road there where all the sheep or goats are. We call them shoats because we don't know what they are. But darn, I forgot her name. She's friends with Lori. Anyway, they built that house back. They started it in '89. It was finished in '91.
Okay,
So that's what we're looking at. Yeah.
but you were just regaling in the, I don't know, the the situation of the house, that you get the view in the sun, so somebody must have had that in mind. when they-
Definitely had that in mind, absolutely. So, if you haven't been, Paul and Doreen have the most wonderful view. Because what they're looking at here is you're looking north. This way. And on nice clear days, you're looking at the western Adirondacks over here. It's really, really nice. And they've got a great view too. They like their winter view better than their summer view because these trees get in the way in the summer. But really nice. It's a decent little walk up here. We were boiling down Maple 2 weekends ago. And Paul came tramping down and hung out with us because we have a fire pit here. And it took us 4 hours to burn down, 5 gallons of maple syrup to get down to, we got down to 3/4 of a quart of actual syrup of how we did second boil. Yeah. Well, the trees were running good for a little while, but now that they're starting to bud out, you don't want to tap them anymore.
Yeah,
So it's pretty cool. Yeah, and that's a little bit about us. I fixed the house up. It was a foreclosure. It was vacant for 2 years. Every piece of plumbing had to be changed out or just patched up. I went hole for hole for hole, and then when I couldn't find any more to patch, I'm running air through the system and it's not holding pressure. And I'm got my kids running around the house. Hey, do you hear any whistling or anything? And next thing you know, we have to knock out a sheetrock wall to find another hole. We did all of that. A lot of cosmetic fixes, but yeah, we did all the plumbing, changed out the boiler, you name it. The barn was in shambles. That looks really nice now. No serious structural changes, just a bunch of cosmetic help it needed, quite a bit. But the house itself, being a log house, and a brick foundation, is in good shape. Surprising, with the clay, sometimes, brick foundations will push in or they'll start to leak. That doesn't have any problem, so I'm wondering if they did it right when they cut that foundation in and they left a little bit of a, let's say, go on a 45 angle from the footing and just filled it with stone. I don't know, to take some of that pressure off. This clay is not very permeable, and if you get that frost heave in between the clay and the brick, it'll push you in, This foundation being 30, 40 years old, it's just pretty pristine, which is nice, so, yeah. Yep.
so, I think we determined that this is 26 feet from the corner of the house to the property line.
Yes,
Okay,
there should be another map that shows that, but.
right, well, we
have.
talked about that last time. So the requirement, for side yard is 40, you've got 26, so you need a variance of 14 feet.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
no. Thank you. Any questions? Should be pretty straightforward. All right, that being said, I'm gonna make a motion that we open the public hearing regarding this variance request.
Second. Chairman Gage,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Lack.
Aye.
Board Member Danister,
Aye.
Board Member Leoni. Aye. Board Member Pettit.
Aye.
Okay, and since there's not really anybody in attendance that would provide any comment regarding the public hearing, I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Chairman Gage,
Aye.
Board Member Leoni. Aye. Vice Chairman Lack.
Aye.
Board Member Danister,
Aye.
Board Member Pettit.
Aye.
So I want to run through the findings regarding the variance request. The first being whether an undesirable change would be reduced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties.
No.
Whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by a feasible alternative to the variance.
No.
Whether the requested variance is substantial.
Already know.
Would the variance have an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood? Whether the alleged difficulty was self-created.
No, it's just a function of where the house is. If you do anything with the house,
Yeah,
you can't go in any other direction out of the house.
so we'll say no in that regard. One thing, and I always forget to mention this, we did request and received a county referral, and they just deferred to local consideration, which is us. And we had addressed seeker in the previous meeting. So what we would need now, somebody be willing to make a motion for this particular variance request.
I will make a motion to grant to Anton Pollock of 615 Barton Hill Road, SBL number 81.00-1-7.12. A west side yard variance of 14 feet to construct a 20 by 24 foot single story addition. Per the findings of section 8.62. Provided a building permit be obtained within 6 months and all other aspects of the ordinance be followed.
Second.
Board member Gangster,
Aye.
board member Bennett,
I,
Chairman Gage,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Lack.
Aye.
Board member Leon. Aye.
You're all set.
Thank you, sirs.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Oh, one last thing I forgot to point out was, so if you're looking at the yard where the grass is, there's a big heart there. I mowed a heart shape.
Oh, I wonder.
Yeah. I don't know if you realize that, it's kind of hard to pick up on that picture, but this way, when she's sitting on the front porch, she can look at the heart all the time. And it's great because it also has a bunch of wildflowers, if you just let things grow.
So when have you done that? Because these are Google Map.
They're Google images, it's probably 2 or 3 years ago, maybe, and we've kept it that way since.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're gonna change it up a little bit this year because this is now where the goats are. And this comes up the kitchen, we have this two windows there that looks at the goats and chickens. And we're gonna do the big heart there, and we're gonna leave them a nice little patch there for them to go chow on every now and then, so. Yeah,
Interesting.
just to make, I guess, I have no idea how many acres that would be, but my parcel's 10. I'm gonna go with 3.5 acres of mowing. It's a lot to mow. It really
Yes.
is, so,
Ah,
yeah. On that 500-foot approach, I'm just gonna leave a lot of it wild, and especially in the, like, late summer with the black-eyed Susans and everything, it's really pretty, so. Gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Very much.
Appreciate it.
um, Why don't we go through the meeting minutes? Yeah, I'm in the Donald Martin section that there was a misspelling, yeah, it should be Meadows and not Massos. I did in the findings sheet, there was a condition that the neighbor John Durgusset's requested that variance again would be only for the existing stuff. And that there shouldn't be any additional buildings you know, be placed within that 35-foot variance, so that, again, the idea was to just encompass all of the existing buildings and not allow for additional structures be placed within the space.
Does stipulate that, right?
Yeah,
So long as it is stipulated to existing buildings.
right. It just in that finding sheet where they mentioned conditions, I made sure that that was part of it. So. And the other point that I made earlier too is the Olgenic application. This was for the garage. That would have, again, required a 37-foot variance, which was way beyond the fact that, again, they had started the construction without obtaining a building permit, which is a no-no. And then there was a concern about a neighbor thinking that it may be partially on her property. And since I've been reading about, concerns about, I don't know, adverse possession and,
Yeah.
I didn't want the zoning board to be complicit in
Right.
a decision that would have reinforced something like that. So again, we denied the request, not as a variance request, but as an application request. And I'm gonna come up with something just to reinforce that. Because I don't, and again, now they're entitled, and I think we recommended that they could come back with another variance request. That would be something that, has the potential for being approved.
Right.
But, and also should meet all the requirements of, again, if they're doing something like that, getting a building permit first, instead of, starting it and then asking us to, okay, it, which is not
Right.
what, anything we should be doing, so. In addition, the, Jacqueline Fritsch, application, again, here was a structure that was placed without a building permit. And clearly it appears that it is on a neighboring property, which definitely has, legal issues, so. Now, my understanding is that they're gonna move that,
Yeah, as far as I know.
okay,
If the minutes are correct, they promised to move it within the next 2 days, yeah.
Yeah.
By March 31st.
yeah. So, well, I mean, we're giving them the benefit of the doubt, but we're still denying even, reviewing the application, because again, there's just too much wrong with it.
Right.
There's a lot of things that should get resolved before it's brought to us, because we're not good, we're not in a position to determine, property lines or the validity of. That should be all sorted out prior to,
Right.
coming to us, or actually any other body for a request of any kind. So hopefully that gets resolved, and then we'll take it from there.
everybody was accepting the one survey that was done, because the other, is French was not gonna pay for her own, so I think she accepted the one that her neighbors did.
Well, perhaps, even though I guess her spokesperson mentioned that they had done a survey and then I don't know, but at least at this point, they're convinced that, or accepting the
building
fact that
needs to
they're
be
not-
moved.
yes, they're not on their property, so. Other than that, I didn't see anything that was of any particular concern.
But I will move that we accept the minutes with the slight amendments.
Second motion.
Thank you.
Vice Chairman Lai,
Aye.
Board Member Leoni.
Abstain,
Boy.
I wasn't here.
Can you still second it?
Well, we have enough to be able to do that without your participation. If it were other circumstances, we might decide in order to facilitate that we would.
I guess the question is, does someone else want to second the motion?
I'll second it, yeah. There you go.
There we go.
Let's start over. Vice Chairman Lai,
Aye.
Board Member Pettit,
Aye.
Chairman Gage,
Aye.
and Board Member Ganster,
Aye.
and Board Member Leoni.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Okay. All right. So, last meeting, I had provided a set of questions that we thought would be beneficial to address if we were trying to determine recommendations that we would provide to the town board regarding setbacks for accessory buildings less than 144 square feet that don't require building permits. And as a result, it has been determined that they're not subject to setbacks of any kind whatsoever. But this is becoming a concern because you could have, you know, like a 10 by 14 shed. In fact, I have one of my own, and you know, it's got a considerable, you know, roof height, at least 11 feet or so. And so there is a concern that, again, there should be something that would provide some kind of setback guideline. And I think one of the first questions was, what category of building size would we consider within that, again, obviously less than 144 square feet? And maybe going down to, I don't know, 80 feet or so.
Where is the key gonna be, and maybe this answers the bit about can we fake a fence? Instead of limiting it to this, defining it by the square footage of the accessory building with the height.
Well, that could be a consideration as well. Or the other thing too is, and this came up in the discussion. And I guess Dale had made a determination because it was a structure that doesn't require a building permit, that therefore is not subject to the zoning ordinance. I mean, do we agree with that? Or if we say, well, you know, and even if it doesn't require a building permit, is it exempt from, you know,
Well,
the existing setbacks?
I think we agreed to that determination and
You
at
did.
least in the context
Yeah,
that
you
it was
agreed
brought
with
before
that
us.
statement, because there's nothing that says that.
Otherwise.
Right, and
Yeah.
when it was brought before us, I
You almost have to.
specifically agreed with it.
You almost have to agree with that, if there's nothing that says otherwise.
Well, should we make something that says otherwise?
So,
Well,
Do you want my opinion?
Yeah, because the other,
Town board.
this is something that we touched on,
yeah,
the enforcement concern.
so. I mean, I think the easiest thing to do. Instead of getting into size and everything, anything less than hundred and 44 square feet. You put a distance on it, it doesn't matter if anything, any structure, I think you have to word it like that, any structure. Must be 5 feet from the lot line or 10 feet, whatever you get, whatever distance you wanna go, I think, I think you're gonna create. Another mess if you go with 80, because if you just make it a blanket, anything under 144 square feet must be X away from the lot line. There's no gray area there, right? Anything 144 or more than, I'm sorry, more than, because the code says more than 144. So it's 144 and below
Right.
is exempt right now.
Right,
Anything more than 144 square feet has to abide by the setbacks. Unless you
Okay.
obtain a
The
variance.
40-foot setbacks in most cases.
Right,
Yeah.
unless you get a variance, you have to, so, I mean, I think that's the easiest way to go. I think it's gonna be the easiest to explain to people, it's gonna be the easiest to get out to people. Like,
Okay.
you know, any structure, not including a fence, obviously.
Right.
You know, any structure. I mean, you could say with 3 or more sides, you know what I mean?
right, I guess,
Cause a horse shed has 3 sides on it, somebody could put that, you know what I mean, or a kennel or something.
Log shed.
yeah,
Log shed.
Right. Those school bus stop things that the kids are waiting in.
right.
So it would have to have a roof.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it would,
It just couldn't be just, three section of fence put together to make like a, someplace where you can dump your grass clippings or whatever.
right.
Hmm.
You know. And Charles is actually proving my point right now, I think if you get too crazy with this, I think there's too much gray area. I mean,
Okay,
I have been thinking about it, I think if you just say anything 144 and under must be X away from the lot, any structure must be
okay,
X away from the lot line, it could be whatever you guys want it to be.
and I kind of agree with that too, because we don't need to get that much more detail depending on, but if we make it a blanket setback. And and off the top of my head, I'm thinking 20 feet. Because most of the lots, especially in Dwaynesburg, are pretty good size. So you're gonna be,
Well, you may have to get into what. Zoning section you're in, because if you're in a lake district, 20 feet's a long way.
well, that, all right, but that's,
Or the hamlet.
okay, fair enough. But again, that's what, one of the questions was about prorating the setbacks for pre-existing undersized lots.
But again, traditionally, the prorating only relates to
The
the
dwelling.
dwellings, and
I
these
know,
are
well-
specifically not dwelling.
Yeah.
I think, I, after looking at some, and even Lance said it when he was here. A lot of the towns that he looked at were between 5 and 10. I think 20 is excessive, especially out here. That's just my opinion,
Okay,
and I think that's going to be. Really, 20 is gonna be really hard to enforce. Because getting that out to the people, I mean, if somebody, most people are putting these 5 to 10 feet, they're not putting them without their lot, so there's not a lot of them. So a lot of people are still dropping sheds 10 feet from their lot line or 5 feet from their lot line. Now enforcing that to try to tell them they have to move it to 20,
well,
getting the communication to them, I just think. There's gonna be a lot in the beginning that's gonna happen where
well, and obviously, this is, anything that's already in place is gonna be grandfathered because
No, I'm talking about going forward though. Like,
Well, okay,
Because you gotta find them when they do, and since there's no
Yeah.
building permit
And not,
required.
and like I said, most people aren't dropping them right on their allowance. They're within the 0 to 20 range. You know what I mean?
okay.
Wasn't one of the concerns that was in the past there that there was a runoff from the roof?
Yeah,
That was washing out something, because it was too close to the lot line and it was undermining the trees, the sheer plant on the lot line.
Right.
So, 10 feet, it would be a good,
okay. I can see that.
because at least, if it's that much of a situation, you could make some sort of a run where you can run the water off,
Okay, gotcha, for drainage, if that we're concerned about,
Right, and 5 feet, that would be hard to do.
right, yeah. So, right, at 10 feet, it's at least enough so that you could drive a vehicle behind it, kind of
Right.
thing. So, all right,
I
so,
think if you go anything more than 5 feet, which I'm fine with 10 feet, whatever you guys decide, but I think if you go more than 5 feet. I think you have to prorate the setbacks in the hamlets and the lake districts and stuff like that. You almost have to do that because some of them don't have 10 feet.
right, agreed, okay. So at least, again, for the most part, R2, which is the majority of lots, I think 10 feet would be appropriate for that. So then, yeah, we could see what, because the lakes and the hamlets, those lot size, the minimum are supposed to be an acre, right? Yeah. A lot of them aren't anyway. Yeah.
So,
But all right, so we can at least, we're comfortable with, say, 10 feet in R2 then.
yeah, I mean, I think you also have to put a stipulation when there was existing undersized lots.
Well,
I mean, you might have to prorate them too. There are some lots here in Waynesburg that are an acre or less.
well, that's what the issue was
Yeah.
with on Albert, where Lance is and his neighbor, is that those are actually R2s, except those are undersized lots. Normally, the undersized lots are the ones that we see in the lakes or the hamlet kind of thing.
Right.
But also, again, that proration only applies to like the.
To the dwelling,
The main dwelling.
the question is, well, we're proposing changes.
Yeah,
Do we want to propose that the town board consider changing that proration to any structure and not just dwelling?
Because Lance would have been I prorated before I knew that it was just for
Yeah.
dwellings.
yeah,
I prorated that shed and I believe it came out to be like, it was supposed to be 7 feet or something like that, away from the line, which Lance was happy with. However, it wasn't for accessory structure.
right, exactly.
So when I found out it was just for single family dwellings. That's when I went back and I had to tell him that and then I told Lance that, and that's why it got kept there and then it escalated, obviously.
Okay,
So I think Jonathan's onto something. I think if it's for any structure. I just think it makes it's still not gonna be.
all right.
'Cause you can put a
It would make it sound
stipulation
easier in the,
that says.
in other senses, when people are building the garage or their barn.
But I
You
think
wouldn't have to get into, well, we can't prorate it because it's not a dwelling.
Yeah,
But I think you could put a stipulation in there too, that even at a prorated level, it can't be less than 5 feet.
yeah, I agree.
You
In
know what I
fact,
mean?
well, figuring that R2s are what, 2.2 acres?
2.3.
Okay, so, and if, again, the hamlet and lake, if those are supposed to be, again, 1 acre, so then 5 feet would be proportionally within that same thinking then.
Right.
So then we could look at it that way, have 5 feet for the other, I'll have to see, for the other zoning areas. The other thing that came up, can we limit the number of accessory buildings, because I know Lance had made a point of saying that there's nothing prohibiting anybody from, say, having a string of these 10 by 14s. You know,
Making a constructive fence was his,
well, and again, it's not an invalid point because, again, we restrict, you know, fences to 6 feet. And, you know, 10 feet, I don't, we wouldn't even consider approving, depending on the circumstances.
But doesn't the lot coverage cover that?
Yeah, but it's not enough.
depends on the
We-
size and what they're trying, I mean, what Lance was suggesting is if you really want to annoy your neighbor, you cannot put up a. What's the word for the sun blocking fence?
Oh,
The
spike
spike
fence, yeah.
fence, if you instead put up a series of telephone booths along the
Right.
of 12-foot telephone booths along the property line.
Really expensive way to annoy your neighbor though.
Yeah, really, I know.
I mean, those things are not cheap.
But one of the things,
They're convenient, they're not cheap.
Well,
the lot size, because even if, it would have to be an awfully small percentage of the lot size. Because the lots are so big and we wouldn't want to allow anybody to have the opportunity to have any more. And I did see something where that you could base it on a percentage of the footprint of the main dwelling. So,
the problem you're gonna get into is farms. You may have to exempt ag because there's so many accessory structures of such a
Right.
large size. That if you're, especially if you're comparing it to the size of the main dwelling.
well, but that would be, and that would be a consideration because most farming operations, aren't they in agricultural districts? Are there farming operations that are not in agricultural district?
Depends on, for Dwaynesburg, I don't know, that depends on the town, I'm used to
I don't
dealing with it town to town, I don't know
Yeah.
about Dwaynesburg.
There are
in
some,
that regard.
there are some. There's one on Barton Hill.
Okay,
That's not an ag district, right on the corner, pretty much of Barton Hill.
okay.
I don't know if, I mean. Would it be easier if you guys just limited the number of accessory buildings? 144 or less?
And figure that the lot
Because
coverage
if they're
restriction is
over
gonna take care
144,
of.
they gotta meet the setbacks. Right?
Yeah.
They gotta meet, they gotta get a building permit, they have to do all that stuff, I mean,
Yeah,
so limiting the structures. Like Lance is referring to that are smaller than 144.
Yeah.
That people could put anywhere.
Yeah, I'm trying to, okay, well then, what would be the number that you would limit it?
See that, I mean, that's a tough, that's why limiting is gonna be hard, cause I pulled up my maps here, there's 2 properties up the road here. I don't think the zoning realizes, when they did the zoning, you don't realize how many properties in Dwaynesburg are less than 2.3 acres. That property is 0.6 acres, she has a house on it. If you were to make her do these setbacks on the side yard where she wanted to put a shed. I mean, it would be hard for her because of the where the house sits in it.
And
You know what I'm
what zoning is it?
R2.
Oh, okay, yeah,
So. My point is somebody was 0.6, if you're gonna tell them they can put. 5 of them there. Well, excessive, right? So it's gonna be hard to limit the number because not all the lot sizes are the same, so it's gonna be different for. 5 on 5 acres isn't a big deal. 5 on 1 acre, probably a big deal.
right. And here's what, this is actually the town of Glenville. The combined footprint of all accessory structures may not exceed 75% of the footprint of the dwelling. So,
That's a lot of footprint.
well, again,
well, it depends on the dwelling, I mean, if a dwelling,
depends on the dwelling and it depends on
My garage is
on
bigger
the
than my house,
property,
got over my
again,
grandfather.
again, any ag property that's gonna.
well,
It's
yeah,
not gonna violate immediately.
right, but ag properties could be, you know, not subject to this because again, they're conducting an operation.
Right.
You know, again, when I'm thinking R2, primarily, I'm thinking of residential type, you
Yeah.
know, without the ag district.
I think the first 40 feet of my property is ag, it is zoned ag. I think there's a lot of areas of the town where that applies.
Well, an ag district and ag are two different things.
Right.
Yeah,
And I'm thinking
R2
ag properties, whether or not they're in ag districts.
all of R2 is ag residential,
Right,
all of R2.
Yeah.
So, but farms typically, most are in ag districts with the county.
Right,
So there are a few exceptions.
Yeah.
But usually if it's an ag building, we can't inspect it anyway.
but an ag building, I mean, how many would be less than 144 square feet? Because anything larger than that, obviously, they have to get building permits.
Right.
Then they're subject to the existing ordinances.
But
So,
I don't think it pertains to that, I think it pertains to your 75% is what John.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
what,
it's hard to write the 75%.
yeah, most.
Yeah, okay.
Most farms are
Again,
larger than houses.
Yeah.
And what if
Well-
somebody wanted to start an at-home business and with a garage, and they had a house, but the garage has to be bigger than that feet, I don't know, do you make them go get a special use, well, they have to get a special use permit for.
Home occupation.
Anyway,
Yeah, home occupations, you're limited to 25% of the structure. There, they do limit.
right, at your home. But
Yeah.
If they wanted to put a garage on their property, on a residential, you know what I'm saying?
Right, but then a garage is something that would be greater than 144 square feet.
Right.
And that the existing ordinance already covers that.
Right.
Again, we're
Well,
just.
so I guess you'd have to phrase it that the total of buildings under 144 square feet can't equal that. It'd be, right, and that's kind of what you're saying,
That makes more
is that
sense.
you're phrasing it so that the
Not to
total.
exceed. Right, not to exceed.
Because, you know,
Yeah.
with the 75% of the principal structure. Okay, that, you know, like for my house, I would be able, if that was in effect, I would be able to build 10 sheds, 144 square feet. And it would still be less than 75% of the square footage of my structure.
Gotcha, okay. Well, again, that was, I mean, yeah.
So that's my point, like if your house is 2,000 square feet,
Yeah.
but it's only on a half an acre. Then you say 75%, you can fill your whole yard up with them, you can put a tenable in there.
Yeah,
So that's why I think,
Home park.
that's why I think the percentage thing, I think is a little.
okay,
It's a little
fair
odd.
enough. I mean, let me see, here's another one. This is town of Huntington, allowed property owners to have one shed with a gross area of 100 square feet or less. That is placed at least 2 feet away from property line without a building permit. A second shed of any size. And all sheds great, 100, okay, that doesn't really help. There was something where they would allow you one shed, at least, again, without a building permit and less than like 144 square feet, but then restricted additional buildings from there. So,
I mean, the number that pops in my head is 3. I
Okay.
think if you make it a number, you make it easy. Anything more than 3 requires a variance. If they wanna do more than 3, they've gotta come see you guys. To get approval to put a 4th one in for something or whatever, you know? I'll be honest, I don't know anybody that has 3 less than 144. I haven't seen many that have
my house.
3 little sheds.
But then,
But I'm saying it's not happening all over.
yeah, I agree.
I think the
Yeah.
bigger thing is getting the ones less than 144 square feet or less at a certain distance from the property line. I think that's the bigger issue.
Okay,
I really don't see people lining up a bunch of these. I get it.
That's really
I understand it
designed
could
to
happen.
address one Lance's scenario.
I think that would have happened over in Mariah Lake by now if it was gonna happen
well,
with that property.
a lot of people on the lakes have additional structures on their.
Yeah.
So 3, okay, I could go with that. We'll just leave it at that and see. Again, how that could be maybe fine tuned to make it, enforceable and.
Again, we're just, all we can do is propose this.
Yeah.
The
Well,
town board would have their own debate about
Right.
this stuff.
I guess, and again, like I was saying before, we don't wanna make it so complicated that they're gonna look at it and go, this is, what does this mean? Anyway,
And start smoking.
well, then they might just not say
Say
it
no.
any,
Yeah.
which would not,
Yeah, well, that-
would not be beneficial.
That's one of the things, it's just one of these, so.
All right, so I guess we could explore an exemption for properties that are in ag districts. But like I say, these smaller buildings, I don't know if they would come into play as much.
I don't know if you're not worried, if you're, I don't think you have to worry about the eggs. I mean,
Okay.
you could exempt them from all this if you wanted to.
Yeah, you probably want.
Again, making it as easy as possible with
Yeah.
the town board, I
Yeah,
get
I
it.
think you'd want to.
They're exempt from building codes anyway.
Right, because,
So-
okay,
They have to pull a permit, but I don't get to inspect any of the stuff, so.
okay. So you were saying there's some zoning that's specifically agricultural. And then you have R2 properties that have an ag district designation.
So, yeah, anybody that lives in R2 is considered residential agriculture.
Right.
Right.
Okay,
If you have a farm, Nelson, if you decide, what's that?
Wouldn't the Holmes on Scotch Ridge Road be the same thing, because my house is across the street, so it will be R2. But they have the blueberry farm and the pines and the sell pine trees.
Right, so but they could also be an ag district with the county, so they actually get more
Okay.
tax, it's a
It would
different
be
tax
R2?
thing.
right, because the
We're
nature,
all agriculture, I mean, if you live in R2, you're ag. You know,
Okay.
you're considered residential agricultural.
Okay.
The farm, I believe they are an ag district, but you can apply with the county to become an ag district, which almost every farm does. Like I said, the one up on the corner of Barton, where Barton Hill splits with Galvin Road, I believe there, right there on the right, he's got a goat, I think there's a bunch of goats or something there, or sheep, they were just talking about it. It's right up on the corner.
oh,
He's not in an ag district, right? But he's still ag because he's in R2, so if he puts a building up and a barn for the sheep, it's still considered an ag building. Right?
right, but
The ag district is basically for tax purposes and exemptions and all kinds of stuff.
right, and it's conducting an operation that generates some kind of income based on that,
Right, yeah, right.
whatever ag operation you're conducting.
Every year, people apply to be in an ag district. The county they'll send me the list and I have to approve it. Based off of, somebody wants to be an ag district and they own 0.5 acres of land, probably not a good idea. Doesn't make sense, but if somebody has 50 acres or something and they wanna be an ag
You
district,
can talk to
Why
Mike
not?
about the
You know?
exact rules for,
yeah,
a
so he sent me a thing.
7 or more acres,
This year.
10 grams or more in revenue, if
Right,
you want
exactly.
if you want an ag exemption.
So there was 3 this year that applied to be it, and all of them were, I believe, over 10 acres, so I basically said there was no issue with any of the 3. So.
And again, we're just talking about smaller buildings. Well, of course, I don't know, even a 10 by 14, that's a pretty good sized structure. I mean, you could,
Yeah. I mean. But I don't know any farms that have these buildings right on their lots.
no,
Well,
well, that's the other issue.
I don't think,
Or the only ones that do used to be, were farms that got split. Like when
Yeah.
they,
and some of
do
the
it
farms,
subdivided, we
yeah.
had to go through the.
Yes, we
The
did.
variance thing,
Yes.
none of these farms started with them on the lot.
No.
I don't know where they're, you know.
I just don't-
lines may have changed.
And I'm glad I just thought about this. The reason why I don't want you to make this too complicated and too far away from the lot lines is then I have to start regulating farm stands.
Yeah, well,
Right? I mean,
Yep.
it's,
Yeah, that's what's,
you open up. If you get too far away from the lot lines, I think it gets, it's like I said, it's too much
Okay.
gray area.
but but to have a farm stand, don't you, isn't there kind of like a special use permit or something?
No, most of the districts that we have, farm stand, roadside stands are permitted uses.
They are permitted
Yeah.
uses, okay, well,
So, I believe all, I'd have to check, maybe not the Hamlet, but I know in the Lake District, yes, R2, yes. Commercial, yes, the Hamlets are the only ones I'm not sure of,
okay,
off the top of my head.
all right, but a farm stand, again, it's not really a permanent structure either, is it?
Well, one of our planning board members, Josh Houghton,
Yeah,
stays there all year round, it's just a wooden
Yeah.
thing, but it's between our 0 and 144. And it's got 3 sides and a roof.
okay. Well, again, we'll probably, yeah, maybe just need to fine tune what we're considering an accessory building too.
probably also 5 feet off the line. Or
Yeah,
10
I
feet
mean,
off
yeah,
the line,
okay.
I mean, it's-
Yeah,
It's a distance off the road, I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know. Without being a survey, but to my point, I'm just saying, you know, somebody could put one of those. But I don't know if you wanna fine tune that, I think you wanna. And like, again, this is my opinion, but if you go saying. Farm stands are exempt. Somebody could put a shed right on the edge of their property line and tell you it's a farm stand. It
Yeah,
doesn't mean,
well-
well, I mean, if we're talking about people lining these things up, you've gotta entertain the fact that somebody could also say that, they could also say this shed's a farm stand. So that's why I don't know if
Okay.
you wanna,
fair enough, all right, but even still, I think,
I don't have to limiting it to 3, cause you can't have an excuse for more than 3 farms there.
yeah,
I think if you make it easy, limit it, come up with a set distance from the property lines. Make prorate for undersized existing lots.
all right, now do. All right, do you think that we would want to explore expanding that prorating setbacks for other than like the main dwellings? Or we should, I mean, not even,
I think so, just, it's been a hole in the ordinance forever,
okay,
and we might
all right,
suggest, can we open this up so that we can prorate for any variance application and not just dwelling?
okay.
That's not.
No, but that's,
No, I certainly agree. But I think, again, I think you need to have a minimum in there regardless. Because if you prorate a garage. It could come out to be 3 feet from the property line, depending on the side, over it.
Well, but again, that's because your undersized lot is so small that it becomes unusual, you know,
Right,
that's.
so I think if there's a minimum setback, I think
but then
it
again,
protects you a little bit.
yeah, right, and we want to be careful because then we're gonna be confronted with, you know, variances for other than. You know, I mean, main dwellings. All right. All right, so far then. We're thinking for at least at R2, that there would be a blanket 10-foot setback side yard and rear as well, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, for R2, and then we can explore for the other districts, whether a 5-foot is feasible.
Yeah.
Okay. We're at this point thinking that the number of these structures would be limited to 3.
Yeah,
Three without a variance.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And they can always ask for a variance if
Yeah.
they want
Yeah.
to afford them.
Well, of course, the idea would be to come up with something that would be satisfactory enough that people wouldn't feel the need to have to, you know.
The oddball
come-
circumstance
yeah.
could come up, and that's what variances are for, you know,
Yes.
that's.
Okay, and we're considering, and we're not really gonna address setbacks specific for accessory buildings. Again, depending on the type of building,
Oh.
so at least I think that's what I was thinking when I looked at that. The other being that, that the prorated setbacks for pre-existing undersized lots could be applied to other than the main dwelling. Okay. Now here's the tricky part is how is this to be enforced? Because, well,
I'm trying to make this easy.
no, but the problem is
In your new partner, you're gonna have to hire one, yeah.
the technology has gotten better, is that you can easily purchase like one of those, you know, already built sheds like I did. And then you can arrange and have it delivered and they have all some interesting, I think he called it a mule or something where he's got wheels in the back and then he's got this thing where he drives it. You know, it's all kind of developed a lot more efficiently than it had been. But there's no way of notifying the town that this is being done because right now, there isn't any requirement for notification. So how would we go about doing that? Other than, you know, you having to drive around and then saying, well, gee, that wasn't that here, this wasn't here last year.
I mean, I think posting it on the website, posting it, you know. Within the town is probably one way. I believe Kara does a welcome packet for any new. Homeowners,
Okay,
so it could be put into there. And I think other ones, I think for a while, unfortunately for me, it's going to be people that know about the rule that are complaining about somebody that doesn't doing rule. Which is my job anyway, and me seeing something, right? And usually you can catch it in the early stages, because a lot of times what happens like over on Riotville, we didn't catch them quite fast enough, but they put stone down first.
right, which is required.
Right, they put stone down first before they dropped it. I just didn't get there in time within those couple days that it had transpired. So,
Okay,
I mean, I'm sure there's gonna be some of these that are gonna be dropped and have to be moved, you know, but as
Right.
long as it's as long as you have it in a rule that I can enforce, then there's
Okay.
really nothing.
well, my understanding is if we come up with a set of recommendations, it goes to the town board,
Yeah.
they're gonna have to have a public hearing.
Yes,
So then at least it will publicly be,
right,
you know, if they
Recorded.
yes. And I'm sure,
recorded, and then if they decide or, you know, need some kind of revision or something, it will at least have gotten, you know, presented to the public in a way that people will be aware of that.
and I think Jen's also trying to figure, like, there's a way on our website to put up like new things, so you can click on anything that new that has arisen, like local laws that have popped up that people don't, you know, anything new that people wanna.
Yeah,
When they visit the website, bingo, so.
of course, not everybody has internet access, or if they do, they don't, you know,
Almost
apply.
everybody does.
Well, they can,
We're close.
now they do,
We're
yes,
close.
but I know that, I'm sure there's some that, for whatever reason, anyway, I think, this is a good start. Ultimately, you know, and what Teresa has suggested, that we put these together, then we'll go to her, and she'll have to kind of see what the legalese,
Right,
you know, part of it would entail, so.
Chris, do you do like an audit every so often of like by looking at aerial pictures of the town and see if there is any changes?
We're not, I mean, we're not required to, but being new, I have done that, one thing that's good for is like when they put the local law in for the storage containers, the connexes, the train trailers that people have started dropping all over the place.
Right.
I can see based off the maps, whether it was there before the local law or after. You know, but I mean, it's really hard because the system, this Schenectady County system only gets updated every 3 or 4 years or something like that, so.
Okay.
You know, and Google Earth doesn't always update every year, you
Right.
know, sometimes it's a year and a half.
Yeah.
Could be a little longer, could be a little shorter, they might update in 6 months, you know, so it's hard to do that, but. In like an event like this, for something like this, yes, that could definitely be used for that.
Even though I can recall another municipality, there was something about how the town had somehow gotten like either satellite imagery or something, and then had seen that, you know, somebody installed the swimming pool, and whether that they could enforce that based on that information. And I think it was kind of ruled that they couldn't do that. I'd have to look it up. That may have changed. But,
Yeah.
you know, because it's like going around to somebody's house and kind of looking over their fence and I don't know, that I have to see where that is right now.
I think it's different too, if you can look it up on the map and you can still, you can see it from the road, I don't think, you know. Cause I typically have the right to the front door,
Right,
so anything I can see,
You can see from public access.
right, but
or the front
Rule.
door.
What-
The
what is-
question is-
satellite imagery considered public access.
No, but what he's saying is if you see it on the satellite and you can go to the road or to the door. And all the satellite is told you is where to look.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if, again, that's the kind of thing that could get thrown out. I don't know, but I'd be curious to see how that works.
You have to get that first.
Bigger question is it's,
You know,
you've
and a lot
got
of
10
times-
acres and it's back there somewhere, you're not gonna see it.
For the,
Well,
Without the
that's what I
satellite,
mean.
that's the bigger
for the
question.
most part, people don't, especially for something like this, people don't wanna go to court.
No, of course not,
So,
but,
yeah, I mean, I guess there's a chance it could get there. And then we'd have to, we'd have to see, but.
yeah, and I think most people would shy away from that. I mean, you know, especially like drones
Yeah.
are so much more, I don't know, common now. But again, if you start, using a drone and then kind of taking note what might be on your neighbor's property or something, I guess,
Yeah,
I don't think the town should even go there.
no,
Which is why, again, somebody flies a drone on somebody else's property, I think you could shoot at it if you could hit it. But again, that would not be a valid way of trying to enforce this, scenario that we're.
Drones have helped me in my job, so I'm gonna stay out of this one.
Oh, no, I have one and they're terrific, and I got it for kind of surveying my own
There's
property.
been projects that I've gotten good pictures from residents from drones, which helps me out,
Yeah.
I don't.
But that usually requires permission. Right? I mean,
I'm gonna.
if you don't get caught.
well, again.
He
you
doesn't
don't get
know, all
shot
he
down.
knows is someone sent him a picture.
I don't know the I don't know the FAA rules, so,
400 feet is the max, and you could see a lot from 400 feet.
Yeah,
so if you stay,
especially depending on where your elevation is going up and down, right?
Well, yeah, and the cameras in the drones are pretty, they get better all the time. You could buy them like with, zoom in them. I
Yeah.
mean, it's really, but again, it's also invasion of somebody's privacy, so. All right.
People got guns around here too.
Well, they do, and again, that's, You know, and that's the other thing, it just, when I was thinking about this, I wouldn't want something where people felt like. We don't want the wording to be that you have to like register your
Right.
buildings or something like that, it. Again, we come up with something saying that from here on out. You know, this is what the setback requirements are.
There's nothing that says that we can't say buildings, more than 144 square feet require building permits. And anything 144 square feet or less, although it's not subject to a building permit. It is subject, however, to a X foot 10 setback.
Right.
You can say, I think.
Right, no, and that's what's been missing, and as we found that other, you know, municipalities have been doing that. So, most recognize that there is a point that a structure is gonna require a building permit, so.
I mean, I don't agree with Lance in the fact that his neighbor did this intentionally to harm him. I do agree with him that a lot more of these things are popping up.
That they are,
Because we have a place right on, what is it, Route 30,
right,
that has the 50 of them in their lot right now.
right, and I bought mine when it's 158 and Route 20.
So, yeah.
And again, and they're already built, you know, and they're easy, and obviously they make it easy for you to,
And some of them are really nice and cool.
oh, they are, yeah. All right, any other questions? Does this make sense? I mean, we'll continue this discussion and then at one point kind of formalize what we have. Now, enforcement wise, and again, you touched on this, is there something in place that if somebody's in clear violation, that you could be authorized to make somebody move a building? Obviously, you can issue a stop work order, correct?
Yeah, so, well, it's a violation first, you issue them violations,
Okay,
and you give them X amount of days to comply with the rule, and if they don't, then you take them to court.
okay,
So, yeah, and then they're forced to move it pretty much.
okay. But now, when you say take them to court, I mean, you don't issue a summons, right? Or you make a recommendation?
So this is
They-
the other conversation that we're having with the town board about how to make this more streamlined.
Okay,
And easier. So, yeah, right now I would have to summons them, take them to court. And then the court would rule if they had to move it or not.
if somebody was being that obstinate.
Right. So,
All right,
but I know I had conversations with the town board about coming up with a way to, because we're seeing more and more things happen. Zoning violations, you know, ordinance violations, people living in, like, there's just a lot more stuff that's starting to happen, right? One of the town board members used the word squatters today. You're seeing a lot more people living in garages where they shouldn't be, and, you know, or campers, or.
Storage units.
Right, building
Yeah.
garages. Too close to the neighbor's property line and then trying to, you know, ask for forgiveness later. We're seeing more and more of that, so having the ability to find them maybe, or.
now, when I think of the
Let me
term
access.
squatters, though, that's people living on somebody else's property. Is that the case?
No, it's
They're
people
living
who-
on their
when
property,
they buy a piece of property and they throw a camper on it and they live in it,
yeah,
right, which is not permitted,
right,
you know, 90 days, that's all you have, so. what
like
we're
that
seeing-
silo that you mentioned,
Right,
just down the road from me.
Yep. yeah, I mean,
And they were camping in it,
You
but
know, some
again,
people, instead of building houses, they're building garages and they'll live in the garage. You know, they're gonna get a 2-for-1 as opposed to building a house and a garage.
well, then,
Or living in the garage while they're building the house, which is still not legal. You
right,
know, they can get a variance from you guys to allow that. If they wanted to, just like they can get a variance to live in a camper for more than 90 days. You would have to grant them the variance, I'm saying.
yes, but a camper is already, for the most part, designed for kind of like habitation.
Right.
A garage, my understanding is for other, it's for like storage of vehicles or equipment or something. It's
Right.
not for, you know,
But somebody could throw a bathroom in a
It
small.
would depend on the
Right.
garage, there's. Assessment codes in our garage with living space,
Yeah.
so you can build your garage with an apartment in it or above it.
These are not barn dominiums.
Yes.
Or apartment in it,
Yeah.
Yeah, I can think of
Yeah.
4 different places that are going to Winsburg that have exactly.
Because ultimately, they're
Garage
doing all,
beneath the
we're
apartment.
doing all this without a CO.
oh, okay,
Yeah, I mean, that's not a, no.
That's
yeah, but
what it all really.
the
boils down
apartment
to.
above is, the intent was for somebody to habitate,
Right,
not. But just to live in your garage, I mean,
well, but you throw up your garage, don't tell anyone you built the apartment above it or behind it.
but. I don't know, but to get it, what is it, a certificate of occupancy,
Right.
that's what you
Yeah.
get involved.
They probably didn't ask for it.
Well, right, and I could see, yeah. All right, I think we beat this to death. Any other?
I just think if you, and I know you're gonna have more discussion about it, I say try to keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Get the point across and but make it as.
Good,
Make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
all right, thank you, Jim.
Board member Leone,
Aye.
board member Pettit,
Aye.
Chairman Gage,
All right,
Vice Chairman Lax, board member Gaines.
Cause I think they have another copy of that.
I don't know, that was on.